So what we're going to do is, first I want to thank you all for coming. Number one, thank you everyone who came. Thanks to all of you who helped set up. Obviously, thank you to Maggie for coming over to Atkinson and showing some love down here. Getting to speak at our leadership is something that we don't get very often here at Atkinson, especially from our local leadership.
Yeah.
So it's really great to have someone like her down here. Really quickly before, I also want to bring up Michael in a minute, from our co-chair for Atkinson Dems. But why are we here? Why did I want to have this event at my house? So I grew up about 2 miles down the street in the maze. If anyone here from Atkinson knows a little bit about the maze, yeah, shout out maze. Grew up in the maze, yeah, right?
I want to know more.
Yeah, well, maybe you don't.
Drive around in your
neighborhood. It's a crazy road area, and I grew up there, went through the Timberlane school system, Atkinson Academy. I walked the trails of the country club before it was built with my father and our dogs. And so for me, being in Atkinson and coming back and living here in Atkinson is incredibly important. And unfortunately, I think over the last X amount of years, Atkinson has changed. And, we now have certain representation. One rep who on social media a couple of months ago mentioned that the word democracy is not in the Constitution. And okay, maybe even if it's not, why is that a statement you're making? Like, do you not believe in democracy? And I think we can do a lot better. And how do we do better? We do things like this, right? We show up, we raise our hand, we volunteer, we have uncomfortable conversations. And we focus more on not left versus right, but the haves and the have-nots. And I think that's the gap that we've seen divide a lot lately. And I'm really excited to get more involved, do whatever part that I can to help close that gap. I think today's a great first step. All of you braving the potential rain, potential weather, it turns out perfect, just like it would. So what I do want to do really quickly before we introduce Maggie is Michael.
Behind you. Behind you.
Yeah.
Behind you.
Michael, our coach. Hey everyone, how you doing?
Hey.
Great. So I just want to speak real quickly about something I've just been feeling a lot lately. And looking at this crowd, I can tell that maybe a lot of you feel too. And that's hope. Over the last few months, after running for state representative, unfortunately not having the win I was hoping for, putting all that time and effort, I was kind of at a low point. Mainly because, not so much about losing, but for the fact that it's learning that our neighbors around us may not necessarily have the same thoughts and feelings as we do about the kind of country that we want. And that was really troubling to me. Because a lot of those same people will come and see us and they'll say hi, have all sorts of pleasantries. But when they're in the voting booth, it's a different story. And I think some of you felt that as well. And a few months later, we had our local election. We had another contested library trustee candidacy, if you will, where the library became a culture war, and unfortunately, our school district's budget was under attack. And while we were successful getting the right library trustee members in to ensure that we have a library that is beneficial to everyone, not just for a few who would like to restrict books, for example, our school budget was cut. And that was very disappointing and devastating because we, of course, found out that 26 positions were cut, 8 of them were for individuals who had positions within the school district, and many of the other programs were also trimmed or reduced down because of budget being tight. And so, a month later, we had a committee meeting for our Democratic Town Committee. And I wasn't expecting much personally. I mean, everyone was just kind of worn out. And then at that first meeting, we had so many new faces. And I realized something. We're making progress. We're making progress in this. People are paying up. And out of that crowd of new people, we ended up with mostly a new committee. I mean, I came back as a co-chair. We have, of course, Chris Tardif as our other co-chair.
We have Ray Lipford, who was our new secretary. Sam Butler, who's been our longtime treasurer, came back. Happy for that. And then we had Chris Siderick, who joined us as a delegate. And then we also had Winnie McManus, who's not here today, but she was also a delegate at large. Most of these individuals have been activists, who have been people who have been advocating for all the right things, all the things that we believe in. So it was great to see all these people come out and want to help. And as we started getting to work, we started to notice that other people were coming out of the woodwork and also wanted to help and be a part of this too. And the way I see it is, if we keep making this progress, we're going to win. So that gives me hope. And if you're feeling that hope, I want you guys to hold on to it. Just remember, progress isn't instant. It takes time. So just remember, we're making progress, we're gonna win.
Yes.
We're making progress, we're gonna win. And with that said, I'd like to hand it over to Lisa Mia, who is the chair of the Rockingham County Democratic Committee.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. Yes, I am Lisa Mayo. I am the new chair of the Rockingham County Dems. It's great to be in Atkinson. I'm doing kind of a tour of the coalition towns. If you guys are part of the coalition, those of you who remember. And this was back in 2019. We formed the coalition. And it was 5 towns in the western half of Rockingham County. We weren't getting much attention or support from the state party at all, if at all. And we looked at that and we were like, well, we can all sit around and talk about it, or we can flip and do something about it. I had it myself. But that's what we did. And it was 5 women, and we sat down in a room and said, what needs to get done, and how do we organize ourselves in a way that we will be able to get the support that we need. And most of it was just supporting each other, sharing resources, so we're not all doing the same exact thing times 5. That was being done once and being done efficiently. So that's what made me kind of took over the county committee, right, Donna?
Yep.
And part of that was most of the county committee was focused on the seacoast. And so by bringing in some people from the west end of Rockingham County, those spiritually red towns, we brought the conversation. We didn't take it over. We didn't stop talking about the Democrats that we already have. We talked about how to get more from this area and also help them feel supported. So our focus now that with this executive committee is organize locally, help recruit and train strong candidates, and build lasting structure. Our focus is 100% on the town committees. The town committee like this is where all the work is happening. You guys are the ones who are doing the work, and I want to make sure that the county committee is using what leverage and tools that we have that we can do at scale that we can then offer to you guys. Beth and I were talking a little bit about that. National pictures and mess. Every day it's something new, and extremism just seems to be getting louder. It's really nonstop, and it's absolutely designed to keep us all doom scrolling. But to quote Taylor Swift, you should think of your attention as if it's expensive, as if it's a luxury item, and not everybody can afford it. Our attention is precious. Where there's so much noise coming at us, we can feel like the big fights are happening somewhere else, or they're too far away to matter, or too big to actually do anything about. But that's when what Michael was talking about comes into play. You guys saw your schools under attack and you organized yourselves, because neighbors talking to neighbors is how we get this done. And that's why we have changed the way that we operate the county committee. We are not having a big monthly meeting. I don't want to pull people away from this kind of space, because this is where the impact is going to be happening. So it's also a way to just kind of deal with what's happening on the national level. Strong, resilient communities are harder to take over and to intimidate. So the coalition just really shaped the way that I lead now. And it worked really well because ego really didn't get in the way. We didn't fight with each other. We weren't looking for credit or control. We just showed up with a shared purpose, supported each other, and trusted the process. And that made all the difference. So that's what we're trying to continue to build across the county, encourage town committees to work with each other. The county committee now, like I said, we're not doing a general meeting. We are going out into the towns. We're attending events like this, but even just the regular monthly meetings. because that's the only way we're going to know what's actually happening. So like I said, all the executive committee members, you should start seeing cases in your meetings. And, but I'm also encouraging all of you to go visit a neighboring town. I believe there's a not small contingent from Salem here.
Woo, they are.
We've got Wyndham in the house as well. And this is exactly what the coalition, I'm sorry. We have Wyndham in the house as well.
Tell them to the house.
Tell them too. Salem was one of the founding towns for the coalition as well.
Yes.
So drop into their meetings, see what they're doing. You're going to get some great ideas. Wyndham's doing some really cool stuff at the town level that you guys might want to know a little bit more about. It's not just about one election cycle. We've got, there's a redistricting coming up in 2030, and that's what I am laser focused on. Somebody asked me earlier, is that going to have that option? And I'm going to fight like hell, and I hope you guys all will too, to make sure that that is a fair process, but also that we have control of the House so that we can guide that process and make sure it's truly neutral. Public speaking, this whole job, some of the things that came with this job are not naturally things that I love to do, but I know that you can't do big things from your comfort zone. So I think Chris already talked about, we have to get uncomfortable to do this.
Yep.
Like, nobody's born to do this. Maybe I'm Big Maggie there. But getting uncomfortable with each other, having conversations with folks. I heard a terrifying statistic as nobody's getting their news from the news anymore. The number one sources are YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And so that's where we need to be for now, to make sure that we're countering the extremism and the other things they're saying. And like I know Michael was saying, like the lies that were being told about what's going on in schools, and you knew they weren't true, but people will believe it faster than you, rather than from the Eagle Tribune or some other news article. There's just this really serious mistrust of media, so we've got to make up the gap. I'm going to stick around, so if anybody has any questions about what Rockingham County is doing and how that's going to look here in Atkinson or any of the other communities that are here, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But I'm going to turn it back over to our host. Thank you all.
All right, I'll let him discuss now. I just want to make sure, I'm very fortunate to introduce our speaker and guest of honor here. I have a quick list because you're deserving of said list. So you all know her, but being a graduate from Yale, serving in the Navy Reserve, Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Justice Department, Senior White House Advisor. Additionally, she served on the first impeachment of, counsel for the first impeachment of President Trump. I think it's outrageous. And then really what brought me to being a big fan of our Congresswoman Goodlander is we met at the clam bake for the Rockingham Dems in the spring. I've been fortunate enough this year to meet a lot of different people who help serve us, and of everyone I've met, Maggie has made me feel the most heard. And I think that is something that is incredibly valuable as a leader, is making everybody, no matter who they are, feel heard and seen. And again, I think, keep that up. I mean, that's a quality that we're getting right now. So, without further ado, Congresswoman.
You guys hear me all right? Yes. Oh my God. Chris, thank you. That was such a nice introduction, really. And I'm never going to forget that night at the clam bake when there was a full table from Atkinson. And so, this is the thing about my job that I love. Like, there's so much about it. Number one, I feel like I got the best view in the house looking back this way. I mean, this is just a glorious backyard, and there is truly nothing I would rather be doing than being in conversation with all of you in this truly beautiful place. So I want to be brief at the outset and really hear what's on your minds, what's in your hearts. But I will never forget the night I met Team Atkinson. I'm so grateful. This is an awesome executive committee. Thank you to all of you who came out tonight. It's truly awesome that we've got Salem in the house. Because Salem is where I started this whole enterprise right here. My very, very first house meeting, actually like just a few hours before I officially announced that I was running for Congress, was right in Salem, at a living room where many of you were there. you were grilling me, as you should be, because it was a job interview for a really, really hard job in what I knew in my heart would be an unprecedented time, and here we are living it. But Salem is where it all began, and soon after it was Wyndham. And I now say Wyndham, and I don't apologize for not saying Wyndham.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And part of the reason for that is this week I had a chance to sit down with many members of the Wyndham Select Board, two of them, together with basically everyone who makes it happen in Wyndham. I mean, except for this group right here. I mean, these are the people who we've got to work with, who are in office now. You know, a lot of them hopefully are nearing the end of the line, especially the select board members who quickly started to police the word Wyndham. And I said, I'm very sorry, I'm from Nashville. I grew up this way. This is how I was raised, to say Wyndham. He said, well, actually, the truth is, I said, how many people in this town insist on Wyndham? He said, maybe 5. I said, all right, I'm saying Wyndham forever. And it's awesome that we've got, I know we had Pelham in the house too. I also feel very liberated to say Pelham and not Pelham.
Yep.
In case anyone tells me otherwise. But for now, I just want to say, do we have any other towns in the house? Do we have Hudson in the house?
Yeah, New Market.
Newmarket in the house. All right, Newmarket.
Yep.
And Hampstead in the house.
Hampstead, yep.
All right, anyone else?
Fremont.
Woo!
Thank you.
All right. So you teach in Atkinson here at the
I
school?
teach in Plastow.
It's Blastow.
Yep. Grew up in Atkinson.
Well, this is home. I mean, and this is, I am so grateful to be here with you guys. I just wanted to give you a few reflections really on today. My day, this job, we live, I don't need to tell any of you because you're living it and feeling it just as I am. We're living in truly chaotic times, in truly painful times for hardworking people in this state who are up against what I'm going to call, for the purposes of our conversation tonight, Trumpflation. So what I'm talking about are the thousands of dollars in taxes that hardworking people in this state are paying this year. And it's an average, you know what the average is? Taxes from these trade wars and these tariffs. Just the dollar value that each family is going to be paying, $2,400. That's what we're expecting. Tariff tax. Today I talked to a woman who was telling me about her mom who works in a manufacturing. She works for a manufacturing company here in New Hampshire. And I'm on the small business committee. Shout out to all the small businesses out there. We've got just small businesses are the beating heart of our economy here in New Hampshire. This woman works in a manufacturing company that we should be bolstering up. We should be bringing more jobs right to here to New Hampshire. These tariffs, these unpredictable, truly corruptly deployed tariffs, are causing our small businesses here in New Hampshire, manufacturing companies across the board, to actually be threatened and going out of business. I was in Salem at a roundtable this morning. I hear everywhere I go, small businesses who say what's true. Uncertainty is really bad for business. It's also bad to be living in uncertainty like this, chaos and corruption as a citizen, because as Lisa said, and can we give it up for Lisa, because we're very, very lucky.
Yes,
to have her at home. It's like the dream scenario when I would see the chair of the Rockingham County Dems basically every week in towns where we have not come out and showed up and sat down and listened for a long, long time. And that's really what I'm trying to do in this job. But when I'm sitting down and listening, and I'm coming everywhere I can, anyone who'll sit down with me. I was in Wyndham and Salem this week. I was in Litchfield. I've been in Hudson. Here I am in Atkinson, and I'm really eager. I spent a little time earlier this week with someone who works in your fire department in Atkinson, and I'm trying to find common ground in any way I possibly can with anyone who I can work with, because I know that in this environment that's going to make a difference. But I also know that we've got serious, serious challenges and fights ahead. I mean, I spent a great portion of my time and energy in these first 7 months on the job, and I started January 3rd. And the big kahuna was HR 1, this big, brutal budget bill. I mean, this bill, 962 pages. I'm probably one of the only people in Congress who read it cover to cover.
I'm going to give you applause for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? That shouldn't get applause.
No.
Because this is like
Yeah.
stuff you're supposed to do when you're a member of Congress. Read the bill. Know what it is you're voting on. But I'll give it to my colleagues who, aren't ordinarily inclined to read it, but may have tried. It's hard because it was constantly shifting. We were getting late night. I mean, we pulled. It'd been since college that I pulled 2 all-nighters in a row. We were round the clock, and I was trying to make a simple case to my colleagues about this bill. So there's 962 pages, chock full of stuff that's making life more expensive for people in New Hampshire. One of the parts of the costs and the tax in this bill was contributing to what I'm calling Trumpflation, which is higher costs that are directly connected to decisions that this president has made that people have got to know about. It was in Wyndham. They've been saving thousands of dollars on an amazing solar project at the library. This town, by the way, your local energy committee, the Wyndham Local Energy Committee, has 3 physicists on it. It's an awesome, extremely smart group of people who have crunched the numbers, they've done the math, they got these panels installed. It's saving the town thousands of dollars a year. They stand to save in the next few years almost $500,000 just on energy costs alone. This bill, they're in a race to try to get panels that they can installed at the fire department or at the police department or just nearby. But because of HR 1, this big brutal bill, which creates barriers to that, they're racing for no good reason to try to save this town money. And these are examples that I'm trying to raise everywhere I go. This is not even the main event in this bill. The main event in this bill are the biggest cuts to healthcare in American history. Okay? Right now, as I'm going around our state and listening to people, it's very rare that you encounter someone who will tell you, I got the healthcare I needed when I needed it, and I could afford it. That's actually an outlier. For the most part, people are struggling to get the care they need when they need it. And this bill is going to make that task even harder. And I'm already seeing the effects of it. I just want to mention 2, because this is a big district. It's like 6,500 square miles from top to bottom, and I get to see a lot. And to Lisa's point, I see a lot of good things, and I see a lot of things that people have got to really know is happening. So I visited 2 health clinics, community health centers. So the people who are the best in the business right now at delivering health care to people in our community when they need it, the care they need when they need it, are community health care providers. 2 clinics. So the nightmare scenario under this bill is the biggest cuts to healthcare in American history are going to cause really great providers to have to shut their doors and go out of business because they can't afford to weather these cuts. They operate on razor-thin margins. This is true of healthcare providers. It's true of nursing homes, including one I was at, Salem Haven over in Salem, an amazing place, but operating on razor-thin margins. Same with our county nursing homes. This bill has already caused 2 clinics in New Hampshire to have to shut their doors. They walked me through the math. It cannot weather the biggest cuts to Medicaid, to healthcare in American history. They just can't. And they can't weather the uncertainty of Trumpflation because everyone's costs are going up. So we're seeing healthcare providers have to shut their doors. We're seeing really excellent, the next generation of healthcare providers in New Hampshire having to leave the state. We see the next generation of teachers, and I met one of them this morning who wants desperately to be teaching. She's a mom here in Atkinson. I don't know if she's here tonight. I won't put her on the spot, but I learned a lot from our conversation today. She's a teacher who literally can't afford to teach in her hometown because you can't make a living wage as a teacher in New Hampshire right now. For a lot of people, they can't make it work. I was with a teacher on Friday night, lifelong teacher from Nashville High School. And she got private health insurance for most of her health care, but she had to get a kidney transplant. And the only way that she could finance that, what would have otherwise been over $800,000 in medical bills. And I've got the receipts here because she has a receipt that shows it. And it's like it's a document that'll make her heart stop. She got Medicaid coverage, and her daughter, who's amazing, paid in cash because it was that affordable. This is what Medicaid has made possible for our teachers. It's what's made possible for kids. Most people in New Hampshire who rely on Medicaid are kids. People with disabilities, this is what we're talking about. And I'm telling you that I have so many conversations every day with people who live in your town and people who live in surrounding towns who just don't know the truth about what Medicaid is. And God love them, you know, they haven't had to encounter this. They haven't had their life turned upside down by, you know, an act of God event that, you know, I hear about these things every day in this job. This job is full of heartbreak because people are hurting. Their hearts are breaking because the system is letting them down. And they're scared to death. And I understand that. And I see it. But we have got to, and as Lisa said, we have got to put ourselves in conversations that are not going to be pleasant, that aren't going to be comfortable, but that are going to be essential. And this is the town that can make it happen. I really believe in this town. I believe in this entire neighborhood of towns. You guys are a neighborhood of towns. You're a community of towns. I love seeing you all in each other's towns. And we got to keep coming together in backyards like this. But I'm sorry, I've talked way longer than I expected to. And I'd very much like to hear what's on your minds. I think I had another.
I got you right here.
Thanks, Chris.
My
Thank you.
name's Chris Sitter. I'm one of the delegates with the Atkinson Democratic Committee. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll come around and give you the mic. I'd ask you to limit to one follow-up question, just so we can get everybody that wants to have a chance to ask the Congresswoman a question. And also remember, she's here giving us her time, so let's try to keep everything respectful. If we get stuck on a topic, we're spinning our wheels, we're gonna move on, because there's a lot to cover on this. All right? All right.
If you don't mind just saying your name and where you're from.
I'm Deb Barrett. I am from Atkinson. One of my worries is about the genocide that is happening in Gaza. I know that there's an HR 3555 that blocks the Bombs Act, and I'm asking you today to actually sign off that bill.
Well, thank you. Tell me your first name.
Deb, no.
Deb, thank you for that important question. HR 3575. I'm gonna look at it. It'll be the first thing I look at.
3565.
3565. Can you guys write that down? They took away my mechanical pencil, so I don't have it right now. Thank you.
Just a little bit of information on it.
Thank you. I appreciate this. So, like I said before, I read every bill that I vote on because I think that's my job and what I've got to do. So, I'm grateful that you brought this. I'm going to take a look at it as soon as I can. I'm going to send it to my team, and I would very much want to say to everybody that this is like pure gold right now. Like, I work for you, and you're giving me a bill to take a look at, and telling me the reasons why I should support it. Like, this is how democracy should work. And I honestly feel lucky that every day in this job, I have this opportunity. Earlier tonight, Tom, where did Tom go? Here you are. You sent me a bill that I'm excited to dig in on, and I know it's going to make this is how democracy should work. Because I got to tell you, I read every bill I vote on. I serve on 2 committees, but I don't get to see every bill that's been introduced. But I very much listen when people write to me. You know, when people call in, it's you bringing this to me, and you to me too. Like bringing legislation is exactly what I hope for and I'm grateful for in this job. But just on the situation in Gaza, I issued a statement on Friday that I hope you all take a look at, which reminds me to tell you, the best way to stay up to date on what I'm doing is to follow me on social media. We're on every platform except for TikTok, which I'm entertaining arguments about whether or not I should be on it. But I'm on every other platform. We've got QR codes here, and I also have a newsletter that I'll just make a plug for because it's, you know, we were talking earlier, Greg and I were talking earlier just about how it's so hard to reach people. And it was said before, people are on social media. It's hard to break through on these platforms and have a real conversation. But this newsletter has been a way for me so far. We've got a pretty small constituency of people. It's like a little more than 8,000. But people open it, they respond to it. I get ideas through it. We've gotten ideas for legislation, ideas for letters I should join on to. So I just want to make a plug for that. And thank you very much for raising this, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh. Hey, so you've been traveling around the state, all over the state, which very much appreciative. You know, I give a lot of credit to your drivers.
That's my mom usually.
Okay.
Betty, she was hoping to be here. And Patty, and Nick, and Mariana. I wanted to say, like, my team is here tonight. They are awesome, and they're here for you
I will
too.
say your social media team is awesome.
Well, you're looking at them right
Yeah,
there.
so shout out to you guys.
Thank you.
When you're going through and you're talking to people, and you're not just talking to Democrats, you're talking to citizens of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Are they enthusiastic about moving forward and making changes? Because what they voted for before was like a, how you say, stupid? So I was just wondering what's the attitude of the people that you're meeting on the street?
Yeah. Well, I'll just say up front because I think probably a lot of people in this backyard tonight are in a similar boat. My one and only sister, like my friend, a person who I respect, she raised me in so many ways. She voted for Donald Trump, and I am working really hard to understand why that happened, how that happened, what it was that motivated my sister, who is a truly loving person. She is a good person. She's smartest person I know. She's a patriotic person. How did this happen? And it's been we found out at the Thanksgiving dinner table, thanks to my younger brother, who was a Rockingham County Attorney's Office prosecutor. So he proceeded to facilitate this dinner conversation, which was one of the most animated in my lifetime. And we've had a lot of really animated conversations with food flying and doors slammed and tears shed and hugs exchanged. But I just say this because I feel like I just know people who I love and respect who made that choice, and like it breaks my heart. It makes me really upset, but it also shows me like I've got a lot of work to do. And I say that I really have tried to go. And if you all have any ideas on places I should go, people who I can talk to, like I'm on the Small Business Committee and on the Armed Services Committee. Those are two committees where I actually, number one, can legislate, which is not a foregone conclusion in the legislative body of our country. They just don't do a lot of lawmaking. But on these two committees, we actually do pass bills. And people work on a bipartisan basis. And everybody in New Hampshire, no matter what your political stripe, you're a small business. People are inextricably connected with small businesses. So whether that's small businesses like the ones that I was sitting around the table with in Salem, it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was actually on Thursday. This was a group of people who probably didn't vote for me. They come from hospitality industry, construction, they're the ones who are trying to solve our housing crisis in New Hampshire and build more homes that people can afford so that, you guys can live for many generations to come in this beautiful town of Atkinson. So people like that, people in biotech who are getting hammered by the tariffs. The entire conversation was about the costs and the prices that small businesses are paying for these tariffs. And there's a lot of conversation, questions that I'm asking every day, why is President Trump putting these massive tariffs on Indian goods? What is this about? In an agreement that's not written down anywhere. So, how does anyone know what's in it? And how is anyone supposed to respond to it? And they're telling me, they're small businesses. They don't have an army of attorneys to go up against the big foreign corporations who are owning this tariff game. They've been some of the most powerful and important voices because I'm trying to advance a really simple bill in Congress. I think we can get bipartisan support for it to exempt small businesses from these costly and chaotic tariffs. It's a simple idea, and it's one that I'm hoping we can get traction on because it's not just those small businesses I mentioned. I spend a lot of time with farmers in our district, and if you have any farms in Atkinson or anywhere else in this area, let me know because the farmers are feeling so much of what's happening right now. So not just the tariffs, but farmers really depend on research, for their businesses, and they depend on federal funding streams that have all been cut. They depend on federal data that's no longer available on federal government websites because they've been wiping government websites clean of publicly available data at the same time that they are collecting all of our personal data and putting it to use for reasons that we still need more information about. But these are people, again, I was up in Groveton with a group of farmers and foresters some of the oldest family farmers in New Hampshire, who are literally hemorrhaging tens of thousands, in one case, more than $100,000 a month because of these tariffs, these taxes. So while this guy over here is saying, to the people, I'm engaging these unilateral trade wars, there's going to be a little bit of pain for a long-term gain. But this is not a little bit of pain. This is like a business ending kind of pain. I am trying to have these conversations, and not just because I'm looking for people in pain, but honestly because I think when we make the case that the people who voted this guy in are being decimated, the number of people who I meet, and look, a lot of farmers, a lot of small business owners depend on Medicaid. Okay, the administrator of the Small Business Administration had the gall to come before our committee and did not know the answer to the question, how many small businesses in America depend on Medicaid. This is a person who doesn't understand Medicaid, a lot like the ones I encounter every day, and it's an opportunity to educate. But these healthcare cuts are going to put a lot of small businesses out of business. Small businesses who literally can only stay in business because they have a workforce that is able to get healthcare through Medicaid, through the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits, which the worst branded, best thing happening in government that is at risk of being lost to all of us. This HR 1 bill, and I'm sorry to rail on this bill, but it's like the worst piece of legislation to pass in the generation of my lifetime. It is so wildly fiscally irresponsible, adds so many trillions of dollars to the debt, that it has triggered a mandatory cut to Medicare of up to $500 billion. And that's Medicare. This is Medicare. It's $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, but $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. And this is a little known fact in a state where a lot of people, we've got a lot of people here tonight, I'm sure, for whom Medicare is lifeline. The bottom line with this bill is no matter how you get your health insurance, it's going to be harder to get the care you need when you need it because costs are going up. And this president can make up, and it's very upsetting, here we are in the hometown of the woman who is getting up every day at the podium at the White House. And it breaks my heart because she's saying things that are not true. And it's a disservice to all of us. It's a disservice to all of us, and it's really hard to combat. But the bottom line on this is, he can say all day that, inflation is going down, but people are paying the price in their pocketbooks. And that's what we've got to keep focused on.
Just tagging on to that, have you, the people that you're talking to that did vote for Trump that are now suffering, are they connecting the dots? Are you finding that receptive to that message?
So, look, I mentioned at the beginning that my sister I find it to be, if you really want to be in conversation, you can't make someone feel like they're trapped and there's no off-ramp. And so it's like a balance to have these conversations without alienating someone. I'm still working really hard to build trust with people, to introduce myself to people. So I spend a lot of time listening, and I spend a lot of time, really bringing the facts, because it's we are even at that level. When I talk to people at a local level about what this bill includes, it's a lot of it's news to them. These $500 billion in cuts to Medicare, they didn't know, that's not something they knew. And for a lot of people in our state, they are not going to know and to feel it until they get a bill that's going to put them into years of medical debt. And that kills me, and I want to prevent that in every way I can, but that's the nature of how these cuts are going down.
Wouldn't that be the nature of the whole Democratic Party to even get to flood all the social media with those facts? Because I know I talked to a lot of people, and they're totally oblivious. They just have no concept. They just think the boat's rolling down the river and everything's going to be fine at the end, and yet it's being destroyed from within. and they don't even see the dot, let alone connect it.
Yeah. So, well, I, by the way, Greg, I want to thank, because Greg handed me a 5-page set of like ideas that I was really excited to read through.
Not mine.
Well, ones you are signing up for, and I'm with you. I mean, I think that I just can speak from my own experience. You know, it's very difficult to find the pathways. Like, it takes a lot of time and energy, and basically it takes all of your help, everybody's help everywhere, to create social media channels that will actually reach people who I may not be able to reach through any other ways. And like, I'm trying to find those pathways, but we do live in silos on the internet. But this is why this community in this backyard, like, we need bridges of every variety. Like, you have those bridges because you are going to school, drop off at school with someone who you can talk to and listen to. Like, who, like my sister, you'll learn something from about what we've done here. But you're going to be the best ambassadors.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, it would seem to me that at the federal level, at the committee level, the nation level, that's what the brain trust of the Democratic Party should be doing.
Yeah.
And I don't see it happening.
Well, I can tell you, like, I don't work for the Brain Trust, and if you get the numbers of the people who are the Brain Trust, I want their numbers, because anyone who is, like, even plausibly posing as part of the Brain Trust, like, I want to know them and I want to work with them, because the thing that I'll tell you about what I learned in the last year, and I had never run for office before, I'd never worked on a campaign before, it's like, I only had a LinkedIn account. Okay, when I started this campaign, and I want to make a pitch for LinkedIn because it's like the nicest social media platform. It's super useful. Like, you know what people's professional background is. Like, it's a very great platform, but it's by far the least like used platform. But so we are really trying to think through this question, and I'm just going to tell you, like, there's no National Brain Trust who has any earthly idea what is happening in the town of Atkinson, or in the town of Salem, or in the town of Pelham, or Wyndham, or Hudson, or Nashua, because they don't know our communities. And I'm just telling you this, I believe it deep in my bones. This has got to be a bottom-up grassroots effort that starts with something as simple as, like, you putting your name on a clipboard so we can stay in email touch, and you can give me an idea about a bill I should go sponsor, about a place that I should go visit, like a thing I should show up to, a way that we can get people involved in the upcoming elections I want to make a pitch for November 4th. It's my 39th birthday, and it also happens to be election day in cities across New Hampshire. And we are going to need so many people who are helping to make sure that the basic machinery of fair elections are running and are alive and well. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to show up elsewhere, because I'm just telling you, for us, I was talking this morning with a group from all across the state, a group of moms. One from Atkinson was telling me, like, people can't afford to be there for the deliberative meeting, to be there for a town meeting, because it goes so late at night, there's no childcare. Well, like, the best story I've heard all day was a group of women in the town of Sutton who organized childcare, transportation, all the above, for people who would otherwise not be able to afford or manage getting that basic childcare. And my God, to all the parents out there who are trying to make it work in New Hampshire, when, you know, you are paying in childcare costs, you could get 2 degrees. I learned that today. 2 degrees with the cost, like 2 professional graduate degrees with the cost of sending 2 kids to childcare in New Hampshire. But all this is to say, we should show up for each other. Please sign up for so the challenge of my job is I've got 12 social media accounts, because we have 6 on the campaign side and 6 on the official side. And it's really, the newsletter is like we're on our official side. So you've got to unfortunately sign up for both. Do we have the sign up sheet? Maddie's got the sign up sheet here. And we also have a QR code to make it easier for those of you who are more technologically inclined than I am. I don't usually do well with the QR code, but we've got QR codes in the sign up sheet. We would really love to stay in touch about this. It's this work is starting, and here you are on an August night, right before the school year starting, in your backyard full of people who love this town, who love this state, who love our country, and you want to make it happen. And I'm so proud to be working alongside you and want to work with you in every way we can. But I also want to take any other questions if there are any. Right here.
All right, yeah, I saw his hand up first, not coming in.
Yeah, Maggie, I heard earlier today Michael, my friend, talk about hope. And there's been very little to be hopeful for in the last 7+ months.
Yeah.
More recently, though, Gavin Newsom has given me hope.
Yeah.
I mean, he's standing up and he's speaking the bully's language.
Yeah.
Okay, will we be seeing more of that from the Democrats? I know the governor from Maryland more recently was very outspoken, but will we be seeing more of that? Because I think we need that.
Yeah, so like I said, I was not on social media really until this past year. And I didn't really have the time or bandwidth until I heard at a bunch of meetings like this one from constituents who have said, Gavin Newsom is doing something really exciting on the internet. So I spent like approximately 5 hours reading all of his social media content yesterday and trying to understand like what is it he's doing. It is genius. The governor of California is a professional troll who lives rent-free in the head
That's what we
of
need.
President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I believe deeply that there's a role for people who are professional trolls. Like, I really do. I think Gavin Newsom has got a job that allows him to have the flexibility to spend a lot of his time and energy as a professional troll. And I spent a lot of time reflecting over the weekend on whether I too should become a professional troll. And it honestly, I spent a lot of time thinking about Donald Trump. I was counsel on the first impeachment. I wrote the book on constitutional grounds for presidential impeachment. One of my friends became a professional. He basically was the person who did all the debates, the debate prep as Donald Trump. So he knows everything about Donald Trump. Like, I could see how people could find a team to do that. I think it's important. I don't think that's my best and highest use, although I am very much interested in knowing if you think I should do that. What I've tried to do is to be as crystal clear and to ask the questions every opportunity I've got, whether it is, Chris.
No, I'm sorry. No, my son's trying to do a puppet show on the way.
Are you doing a puppet show about what I'm about to say? Because this would actually be a really good puppet show.
Wait to see the Trump puppet.
Well, so I need the Trump puppet for this. Do you have a Pete Access puppet? I use the gavel and my oversight role in every way I possibly can to ask what I think are the questions you deserve to hear the answers to. And I gotta tell you, I feel like a troll a lot of the time, but I'm actually just doing my job and asking the questions that you deserve answers to. Questions like, to the Secretary of Defense when he came before our committee, I get 5 minutes with this guy. And look, I don't think he had any business ever being nominated to serve as Secretary of Defense. This is a person who lacks the experience and the judgment to be leading an organization that has $1 trillion budget, that employs more than 3 million people, and we have a veteran with us in the House tonight. We have a number of veterans in the House with us tonight. I want to give it up for Tom left, but for our veterans. Because our veterans and our service members deserve someone at the helm who they can look up to and who can lead them. And this guy, Pete Hegseth, has none of that. I mean, the man was already conducting war planning and operations on a group chat on his personal cell phone within weeks of starting this job. He came before our committee for a hearing entitled Department of Defense Budget Hearing for FY26. He hadn't even bothered to submit a budget to our committee. Okay? $1 trillion for this department. Refuses to commit to passing a clean audit. Now he's on the horn, on a bipartisan way. People are on him on the budget. People are on him on the audit. He refuses to commit to obeying by a decision of the Supreme Court of the United States, ordering the Department of Defense, ordering the president to stand down in deploying National Guard troops to American cities over the objections of local government. In a federalist country, that lives by a constitution. This is what we're up against. So there is, even just saying the truth about what these people are doing in this media environment where so much is happening and people lose sight of what we're up against, we've got to call it out in every way, shape, or form. But I think most importantly, we've got to make people, this is a tent here that I hope when we're here a year from now is going to be a bigger tent. It actually needed a bigger tent because look at all these people. And this is a great group tonight. But we're gonna have to build a big tent and get people. There's a role for the trolls, and if I could ever help in that way, I would. And I thank the governor for what he's doing because it really is impressive. But I think there's a role for people who are gonna come to towns like this and have conversations with people who we're gonna have in our tent sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
So with the executive order making all the federal employees report to offices, there's a large number of New Hampshire-based employees that are now having to work out of state, being forced into Boston. So what are you and the rest of the New Hampshire delegation doing to secure work locations for these New Hampshire residents to serve in their duty stations?
Well, number one, I want to hear from every federal worker who's been impacted by any executive orders. And I've got a long list of executive orders that have upended the lives of patriotic public servants who have worked in the federal government, many of whom live in this part of our state, whose lives really have been upended, either because they've been terminated, they've been fired for no good reasons. They've been relocated without any reasons. Their offices have been closed. There have been massive reductions in, the list goes on. So we've got a number, I'd love to share with you the specifics on the bipartisan bills we're working on. You've done endless oversight letters, but I'll tell you, it's really difficult to get answers. But the most powerful tool we have is to really hear directly from federal workers who have been impacted. Because the thing that I'll tell you is, operating in this environment where we have a federal executive branch that is more unresponsive to Congress than any time in our history, getting basic information is really difficult. I put it in the win column when I'm able to get the cell phone number and name of someone who I need to call urgently to help me with a constituent services case. It's really, really hard. But when we hear directly from people, talked to a guy who lives in Hudson, who's a veteran who worked for the IRS. He pointed us to a pattern and practice of risks or reductions in force towards veterans. And it's without having, so our website, when you go to goodlander.house.gov, the first thing you see is share your story, but mostly write, call, we'd love to work with you.
Okay, so that's your answer, is for me to call your office and tell you that we've been forced to go into an office that's not in New Hampshire. Is that what your answer is to me?
Can I ask
No,
where
I
you
mean,
work in this?
so that I can understand.
Well, my answer is I've joined, if you want to know what I'm doing, we've worked on as much, we are trying to get agreement and get laws passed to protect federal workers in every way we possibly can. There's a lot that's been done. This is one executive order you're talking about. We've got a whole slew of executive actions that we are responding to with legislation. I've brought it through the Armed Services Committee. We're trying to get as much as we can passed legislatively, but it's really hard when you have in the White House the person who has orchestrated the most pernicious attack on federal workers
We're aware.
in the history of our country. So I'm working, and if you have ideas on legislation, I want to hear
We
from
just
you.
need space in New Hampshire.
Who do you work for, can I ask?
Department of Homeland Security,
Which part?
OSHA compliance, safety.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is the first that I'm hearing about
Okay.
reductions in force or movement from office space, but today
Well, that's helpful for me to know that you weren't aware.
that's what I'm talking about with information asymmetries.
Okay.
The Department of Homeland Security isn't calling me up to give me a courtesy notice that he's about to shut an office in New
No, I
Hampshire.
would have thought somebody up because there's
No,
such a large
you would
amount of
think,
people.
but that's why I'm telling you.
Sure.
If you don't tell me, I'm not going to find out
Got it.
unless someone else. This is how we are learning about
Okay.
some of the most urgent closures of social security offices.
Yeah.
Like, this is a pretty big deal when you're talking about closing a social security office that people
Yeah.
from 100 miles away rely on it. It matters enormously for the patriotic people who work in that office, who go to work every day not sure if they're going to get fired. And like, my heart breaks for you, and I want to thank you for what you've done for our country. Honest to God, I mean, it's going to take a generation to recover from these broken promises and this downright disrespect that you and your colleagues have been put through. And it breaks my heart and it enrages me. And I will do anything I can to protect you and your colleagues. But this is the first I've heard of your office closing in New Hampshire.
Well, it's not closing in New Hampshire because
Alright,
these
I
folks
think
were
we could
home
actually
for
move on.
decades
We-
working
yeah,
from home.
like one or two more questions.
Well, I'd love to
Now-
connect afterwards to get your information.
Yeah, no, great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter from Salem. I want to thank you for your service in Congress, but also in the military. And speaking as military dad, my son is on active duty Navy. He is at Whidbey Island, and he's on the front lines of the Pacific Fleet if something happens in Taiwan. Donald Trump is going to do what he's going to do and flood the zone with lots of noise about renaming the Gulf of Mexico, with cutting this budget, all of that, and there's very little that can be done there to stop that.
Yeah.
However, what truly scares me is the idea my son might die for a tweet.
Yeah.
The authorized use of military force was passed 20 years ago, and it is so broad and so it abdicates Article 1 powers to one man. And as there's saber rattling about Greenland and Panama and discussions of peacekeeping forces in the Ukraine, I think it's time for a serious conversation about revoking the AUMF of 2 decades ago and tackling that in a new perspective.
Well,
I think only a veteran
yeah.
person would have to.
Well, first of all, thank Go Navy, and thank you for giving me the chance to talk about this with you. Because honestly, in this job, like, we talked a little bit about the trade wars, and the trade wars have the same problem that Congress has completely abdicated its responsibility to over taxation. Because that's what a trade war using tariffs is all about, and it has been so hard to get any Republicans, just to be honest, like to see the light on, just take the trade wars, for example. You know, I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I'm a part of every veterans caucus that exists, because my hope is that you could get service members who really understand what it means to have this guy as Commander-in-Chief with this Secretary of Defense who is a disgrace to our country. And it's very hard to break through on trade wars and tariffs. It's been hard to break through on the authorized use of military force, on Congress's role in war making. And we went through what, you know, God bless and thank God that our service members who were sent to Iran for that mission, which was not authorized by Congress, which was not briefed in advance to Congress, thank God they're okay and no one was killed because of a tweet or because of, you know, something they wanted to do for public attention. Thank God that mission went well. But this should have been and is, and I hope will continue to be, a wake-up call for my colleagues in Congress who believe in the role that we got to play in war making. Like, there is a reason that there are checks, and it contemplated a situation like this where we have a commander-in-chief at the helm who should not be making these decisions that put your kid's life in danger, that puts look, that's what he signed up for. He didn't sign up to be sent for arbitrary reasons, for capricious reasons, for reasons that have no business being a part of the most consequential decisions that a person could make. Whether to put someone's life in danger. I mean, but your voice, the voice of all these veterans, is really, really, really important, because this is why the attack on veterans is so pernicious, because they are trying to silence veterans. They're trying to silence parents of service members. military families. Like, we need to hear your voices loud and clear, and I'm grateful that you're here tonight.
All right, Congresswoman, you've been so gracious with your time here. We're going to do one final question.
So I know right now there is a very negative and hostile majority in Congress against the idea of government intervention in the healthcare crisis that has been existing now and for the last like 40 years. So what is your next step for when the tides turn, when the seats change, whether that's this upcoming election, hopefully, or whether that's the next one and you run again, hopefully, and what is your plan, whether that's government regulation, whether that's expansion of Medicaid or Medicare, or even universal healthcare policies? What will you do to not only reverse what is the immense damage that has been done, but to expand it to protect the people who are really suffering because of all this?
You know, a year ago, I had an answer to what you would do to build from and fix. Like, we have a completely broken. Healthcare in America is a case study in many forms of brokenness, in basic corruption, in just everything that we shouldn't be seeing in the United States of America. We are paying more. I mean, you know all these stats. It's a broken system. But it's now a broken system. You know, a house with every window bashed in with like non-functioning doors that is like, we've got arson, plain arson, or a system that's being burned down. You know, it's not just am I talking too loud?
No.
Okay. Let's look up here. It's not just the crazy asymmetries. You know, this morning I was talking, before I was in Congress, I was with the Justice Department as an anti-monopoly prosecutor, going after big corporations, and I spent a lot of time thinking about the healthcare industry and going after what I thought were going to be really damaging practices. So United Healthcare wanted to acquire a company called Change Healthcare. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Change. In our state, there are more than 750,000 people who have been unable to get the care they need when they need it because this merger happened. There was a cyber attack, and the merger basically put all the risk for systemic shutdown of parts of our basic. These were basic claims processing systems that got shut down. People's care was delayed. Providers had to shut their doors. Like, you've seen this process now happen again and again. And I think in 4 years from now, a lot depends on whether we're going to be able to take back the United States House of Representatives and whether we're going to be able to take back this New Hampshire legislature, because we can reverse some of these massive. So, like, on your question about defense, it's an open question that depends on how well we do, whether we're able to take back power and to roll back some of the worst provisions of this bill, which will not have gone into effect yet. And I honestly think, you know, whenever you're tweaking with the biggest part of our economy, and by the way, the biggest source of jobs in New Hampshire right now, healthcare is the biggest employer in healthcare industry. Probably is the biggest employer by far in New Hampshire. We've got to proceed with real care and caution. But I have a lot of ideas on what we can do starting now to crack down on what are some of the most deadly corporate abuses of power in our healthcare industry. And I'll give you an example of a few. You know, one of them I hear about everywhere I go is the abuse of prior authorization. So I'm sure many of you have encountered just the insanity, the frustration, and in some cases, like, you're paying for it in your own health when you are fighting a prior authorization fight to get the care you need when you need it. I mean, this is happening to people of all ages across our state. I want to look at every possible solution to this piece of it, because there's no silver bullet for fixing healthcare in America. It's going to take, like, not just bullets, but like all kinds of change, every tool available. One of them is to take a hard look at what purpose prior authorization is serving in this country right now, other than making big insurance companies. I said to someone the other day, I asked him a question about a payer. It was a doctor up in the North Country. He said, Maggie, that this company is not a payer. They are a claim denier and a premium extractor. That's what they're in the business of doing. We are abusing prior authorization, and I'm looking at every range of solutions, including eliminating prior authorization altogether. It's just going to be a tool for jacking up costs and denying people the care that they need. Thank you. Well, the other piece, I have a long list of stuff, but the cost of prescription drugs is another thing I hear about everywhere I go. It just boggles the mind. It's like, how does this cost so much? Well, it's because these big pharmaceutical companies have been given carte blanche to jack up costs, and by the way, to try to drive small businesses that are trying to deliver quality, affordable healthcare. They're driving these guys out of business, and so any tool I can use to lower the cost of prescription drugs, to protect the small businesses in our country that are trying to innovate and to deliver care affordably, like, they are getting crushed by private equity roll-ups that should not be allowed, and that's just one example. But I'm looking for every possible idea, which is why I'm spending a lot of time. So any idea you have on how we can fix any part of our healthcare system, and you're all experts on that because we're all patients, and not many of us would say, like, we give it a 10 out of 10.
Medicare for all.
Medicare for all is something we should absolutely look at. I mean, but honestly, it comes back to how bad is this damage going to be? Because right now, this seems like a positive, but I don't know what the impact's going to be if we make $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. It's like, how do we rebuild that? And that's what I'm honestly working through. At the same time that I'm sitting with, nursing home directors who are having to make the most painful kind of contingency plans. Like, what are they going to do with people who can't afford to stay so that they can keep their doors open? Like, where are these people going to go? This is the kind of planning that I'm trying to support every single day, because this could be, which is why we've got to organize, we've got to win, we've got to have excellent candidates at every level, and count me in to support you in any way I can. I will come here anytime. This is an awesome town. This is an awesome backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter, follow on socials, all those things.
Any questions we can answer, we got the team raise their hands. We got 2 of the team members here, and our newest addition, my chief of staff, Mariana, who's here. So please, we want to stay in touch, and thank you all again.